Good evening, witches.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to week 10 of the Beginner Witch series. And tonight we're going to talk about
moon magic.
All right, so it's 7:04, and I think we're going to go ahead and get started so we can get on with our lesson. Oh, you're going to take the first.
What? No, I'm at the nerdy facts.
Oh, you're at the nerd. Okay.
All right.
So why is moon magic a thing? The moon is our closest celestial body. Its powers are ancient. Since before humans, the moon was shifting the waters to help create life. If our earth was a cauldron, the moon was the stirrer. Its force pushed and pulled, shifted and stirred the elements until life on a microscopic level occurred. With the moon being directly related to water energetically, as humans, we can all say that we come from the moon water of our mother's belly.
Moon water of our mother's belly, you guys.
Never heard that before, right? That's a new witch thing right here.
That's new.
You heard it first. Additionally, the moon goes through an entire cycle in the same amount of time that a woman completes her menstrual cycle.
Key point.
The words moon, month, and menstrual all have the same root word, which is menses. And they all last 27 to 29 days.
So what that first paragraph is really about, you guys, is connecting you to what's ancient and magical about the moon. Like, as humans, and it depends on what your theory of evolution is, or ancient aliens, or God, or whatever, but however we got here, our bodies, specifically female bodies, are physically aligned with the moon cycles. Our reproductive organs are aligned with that same kind of cycle. And our children are born in water sacs. I mean, so if you think about the fact that the moon has a profound push and pull on anything and everything that needs water, which is all life on Earth, all life, then it's always going to be connected with the moon. So your number one go-to when thinking about moon magic is anything to do with water is automatically like in there with the moon element for sure. So I know that Kat mentioned about how menstrual and month and moon all have the exact same root word in Latin. And you're probably wondering, months are not 29 days long, because in 49 BC, so that means like before Jesus, Caesar, like Julius Caesar, decided he was going to create a solar calendar, which is what we follow today. We don't follow the 13-month lunar calendar. You will find some witches who keep track of that as well. They make calendars for it if you ever want to do a 13-month moon calendar instead of the 12-month solar calendar. But that's the difference in them, and why we no longer have a moon calendar, a lunar calendar. We go by a solar calendar. Our moon affects all the water on Earth, and that every living thing on our planet, every single living thing, bacteria, plants, fungi, all animals, all plants, we all need water to live. So we're all made up of some kind of water. So it's easy to see that then the moon has an effect on every single living thing. Like, this is why the moon, I think people recognize how important it was, is because it's able to shift the energy of things on Earth, just because it is so close to us and it has that pull, it has that connection to us. By gaining an understanding of the moon in the phases, you can help to understand yourself, and it can connect you with like the ancient past of how people could predict when things were coming, because they followed the 28 days of the moon, and I say 27 to 29 because honestly, don't try to get specific on it, because it'll be like 27.95 days or something. So it's anywhere from 27 to 29 days long. It just depends on the time of year and our rotation around the sun. It's a whole bunch of wobbling things. So that's all science. But in those 28 roughly days, we go through a cycle. And this is what shifts people's emotions and how you deal with things and what you really feel. Because when you're born at the exact moment that the moon is in alignment with something. A zodiac sign specifically is one of the things that we track for astrology. So if you want to find out about how you deal with your emotions, or how your emotions come through, because that's what the moon really rules, is how we express our emotions. So this is for personal work and shadow work. Okay. This is like for you understanding yourself, your partner, your kids, maybe your boss, or whoever you want to look at,
subordinates.
You can figure out their moon sign. This will help you understand how they express their emotions and sort of the energetic changes that you're like, oh shit, here comes the Aries moon. That means that's in their sign. They're about to be like off the charts. aggressive about stuff or something. I think you're going on to, how does this help us? How does it help us to know our moon sign or where the moon was in our placement?
So you can discover more about, as Jaymes said, discover more about yourself and the people in your lives with moon astrology. And when you were born, there, you know, the moon,
correspondence of
the correspondence of where the moon was. So my moon, when I was born, was in Libra.
Libra moons.
So I'm a Libra moon, Scorpio rising. No, Scorpio sun, Scorpio sun, Libra moon. So here's an example about different energies surrounding different moons, depending on what moon you're born under. Aries is expressed as very straightforward, an Aries moon.
So their energy and their emotions, like, not their energy, their emotions, when they're emotional about something. I guess I didn't write this very like descriptive, but if you guys have questions about this afterwards, please ask or put it in the chat. But if it's an Aries moon, it doesn't mean you're an Aries sign, right? You're not an Aries sun. But as an Aries moon, when you try to deal with things emotionally, you have to be very forward and direct. So this is the emotional output. This is what happens when you deal with your emotions. Because the sun part, we didn't say the thing. I love this saying, if anybody's ever heard it. The sun gives you your spirit and the moon gives you your soul. If anybody's heard that before, it's like, that's the deep emotional part of you. And the sun is like your spirit, how you vibe with like the rest of the world. Yeah, sorry, totally cutting her off.
That's okay. Let's see. So we were talking, Gemini moon is expressed as needing to talk things out. Virgo moon is really good at staying calm during chaos. Scorpio moons are emotionally intense, being red hot or ice cold. Not much room for lukewarm feelings. The Scorpio moon, which we just had. No, we did not just.
I know. You guys will notice in the videos, if you watch them, I kept messing up saying the Scorpio moon. And that's because I've totally been vibing off Scorpio energy and not the Taurus full moon energy. Taurus was nowhere in my realm. So when I made the second video, I'm like, I keep wanting to say Scorpio everything. Scorpio season for me it hits hard since that's what I was raised by. So I really feel the energy of Scorpio every time we're in Scorpio season. And my sister is a Taurus, so I don't know how that exactly balances out, but
it's the exact opposite on the wheel.
Yeah, but why don't I feel the Taurus full moon if my sister's a Taurus? Like, I just don't. I feel Scorpio season as a whole. Maybe it's because we're both water signs.
So now we're going to talk about manifestation using phases of the moon.
Yes, we're going to go through just 4. There is a ton of information out there about the 8 phases of the moon. And I really want you guys to find what you connect with, whether you find it online or in a book. There's tons of information out there on the way that people explain the 8 phases of the moon, which is fine. That's all very detailed and small. It's like 3.5 days each. And if you want to get that specific, go for it. But in more general terms, we're looking at 4 phases of the moon that really block together big chunks of spells or workings that you would want to do, or things you can focus on, or when stuff happens. So this is more directly related to spell work or shadow work, or getting into learning something, starting a project, ending a relationship. I don't remember what we wrote in these 4 at the moment. So she might say all of that again.
New or dark moon, new beginnings, making positive changes, looking for fresh career opportunities, or planting seeds of ideas that will be harvested later, and are all excellent activities to focus on during this moon phase. So one thing, before you say anything, let me finish. So one thing about the new moon or the dark moon, so I don't know if you guys know this, but the full moon was in Scorpio, of course, because it's Scorpio season, right? Or is it new moon?
No, new moon.
New moon. Okay. So 6 months from this, so that new moon in Scorpio would be a good time to start something with probably transformation, some sort of transformation in your life.
Letting something die or end or just be finished.
Because that's what Scorpio energy is all about, is transformation.
Tarot card is the death card.
So when you can expect to see something like this be fully manifested is 6 months from now, when the Scorpio is in the full moon in the sign of Taurus, because that's when the Scorpio full moon will happen. So those new moon, full moon are, and also show up in opposite signs. I'm not sure if I'm doing a very good job of explaining that, but
you're saying
it was something that only came to my realization just within the last year or so, when I was like, oh my gosh. So I have a new moon now, and then in 6 months from now, I got a full moon in my sign. And I didn't realize that
for her.
Yeah, it's for me.
Yeah.
So
I guess nobody really talks about this either, that if you're going to do something for the new moon, a lot of time people think like, okay, well then there's the full moon in 2 weeks. And that's when I'm supposed to have things manifested. In other terms, in a better way of thinking about it, giving yourself 6 months to let things come to you, because you're going to do your spell or ritual or manifestation meditation for the thing that you're looking for while it's in new moon. And the process to get to that same sign, whatever new moon you're doing it in, it doesn't matter. It's going to take 6 months to get to the full moon in that same sign. 6 months in between the new moon in one sign to the full moon in the exact same sign, between new moon and dark moon. The dark moon is the days right before the new moon. And this varies for what everybody's perception of what a dark moon is. But what is happening in the sky is that the moon is actually in between us and the sun, so we can't see it. It's actually up during the daytime. That's the dark moon. So take whatever you think that energy means, that it's no longer in the nighttime, it's not in its place, it's actually with the sun all day long during that dark moon time, and just see what that energy means for you. Maybe you feel nothing, because I don't feel a thing. I just miss it. I'm like, I can see more, meteor showers during that time because there's no moon in the sky. But other than that, I'm like, I just miss the moon. I've never done anything for dark moon. That's not an energy I necessarily connect with, but new moon is. And new moon for me is right when it creates that tiny crescent. It's just fingernail moon hanging in the sky. That's when I'm like, the beginnings are here. It started again. So that's when I start to do more new moon work. I don't even do it in the dark moon phase. To each their own. Nothing is wrong. It's just the energy that you feel most connected with, or when the time allows it. Remember, witchcraft should be convenient and not a chore. Okay, next.
Next is waxing moon. And just like when you wax a car, you're putting something on it. The moon is growing when it's waxing. In this phase, the moon appears to be growing in size from new to full. It's gaining strength. This is a good time to focus on growth in your own life, growing your knowledge, bank account, relationships. Pregnancy is related to the waxing moon. Be careful in case you don't want to have, you're not ready to be a mom.
Don't want to manifest that
ever or again. The word waxing is a farming term that means to grow.
Like gibbouses, yeah.
To create. This is also a time to increase communication, both business and pleasure, and to deal with legal matters if you want financial gain. Also heightened during the waxing moon, healing.
So why do you think healing is related to the waxing moon as things are growing? Like what would be the thing for you? The way that I find the best connections to understand this is to relate it to something physical that happens to us. So I'm going to be really weird about it, because I don't know that I've ever told you what I associate with the healing waxing moon, which means we're growing something. You guys ready for this? I've never read this anywhere. I've never said it out loud before.
Is this going to be something about like a scab or a cut? A cut?
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Intuitively, I know. So I'm healing a nose ring piercing that I just got. So that's happening. And that's why, because as soon as you started to say that, I was like, yeah, so this is healing, because it's starting to trying to,
and it's growing something. It's growing.
Yeah, it's growing new cells and things.
That's right. Yes. It's creating something for healing. Our bodies naturally do that with the water in our blood, with platelets and all of that. So if you want to think about the waxing moon for a healing time, it's putting scabs over the old wounds that you're healing. I know that's kind of a gross association, but it's really easy to think about for healing and growing something. And you can even think about it as a callus, growing a callus, not letting things bother you. But when you start to recognize the moon cycles and you associate it with something that's happening physically to you that you can see or watch or hear or feel, it's going to be remembering these phases is just so much easier. So now you guys know that I think of scabs and waxing moon together, because that's
or healing your body.
Healing your body.
Your body, or your body healing itself.
Sure.
Okay, so full moon and The full moon and the new moon are its most powerful phase. One only needs to observe the tides to understand the full impact of the power these phases bring. Does this necessarily mean it's most powerful to you personally? No, it doesn't. For some, the full moon is a time of absorbing and reflecting. The full moon is a time of fulfillment, activity, increased psychic ability, perfecting ideas, getting your shit together, or renewing commitments. So Jamie and I have an interesting thing, because for you, when the moon is full, for me, I'm feeling my energy is really high. I'm like at my happiest. For Jamie, she's like, it's the complete opposite. It's almost like it knocks her out.
Yeah. I just sleep.
So it's really strange. So what's your energy when the moon is full? Are you like up and chipper, or are you like Jamie, where you're just like drained and need to rest?
Yeah. It annoys me because everybody wants to be up for the full moon, and it's the time where I feel my most tired. I'm like, why? Why am I so tired? Like, I want to be out all night under the full moon, but if I don't do some kind of 5-hour energy or, caffeine pill or something, I don't know, I cannot stay up. I get so sleepy, and I'm so comforted that it's like peaceful sleeping. But the opposite is true. Then during the new moon, you guys, when there's no moon in the sky, I'm wide awake. I'm like, what the hell? Something's wrong. I can't sleep. I'm like bug eye. I can't do anything. So it affects everybody's energy differently. And we're going to ask you guys to do your journaling and think about it, how the moon affects you and what you associate the cycles with. But there's a good thing to point out right here, because in books, all right, anybody who's read a book on doing things at the full moon, you'll find 2 versions of spells. One is that it's come to fruition and it's time to release it, because you're going right from like full fruition, right? Fully lit moon. And it's like the next turnover is now is the time to release it all. So I've read this and seen it in many things, that people consider the full moon a time when you've reached your brightest side and now you let go. And so at the full moon, they do like letting go of things. Totally fine. It's just what you connect with. So if you find that one is like manifest all your desires and dreams at the full moon, it's when it's the most powerful. And then other books are like, this is the time to release everything that didn't work for you. It feels very opposite, but the full moon is a turning point. Just like the new moon is a turning point. It's like the beginning of a cycle. Because then the waxing part, which is the growing of the moon, that lasts for almost 2 weeks. So everything kind of stays the same during that. It's building constantly. But when we hit full moon, it's like getting ready to just flip the cup over and change it. So that's why you'll find people say, this is the most powerful, grow everything now, or this is the time when it's like everything's done, release it all, return to something else. So new moon is kind of the same way. You'll hear dark moon, release everything, banish stuff, cord cutting, and also begin your dreams and desires. Look for that new job. That's why, because those 2, full and new moon, they're switches, whereas waxing and waning are long periods of that thing happening, that energy going on.
And speaking of waning,
waning
is a time so this is as the moon's getting smaller.
The moon was very, very full, fully lit, and now it's decreasing in size.
This is a time for releasing. Just as the moon appears to be decreasing in size, this is a time to decrease or release things in your life that no longer serve you. Breaking bad habits or ending bad relationships are all good tasks to focus on during this phase of the moon.
This reminds me of, I've always loved the analogy of the moon cycle as a plant or a flower or something growing. If you've ever seen those depictions of it, where new moon is like the seed underground, it's dark, it's growing, it's like the thinking, we're planting the seeds for stuff. During the waning moon, it's becoming a little seedling, it's getting a bud, and then it blooms fully at the full moon. So this is like the epiphany of all, like this is its best it's ever going to be, is right at that full moon. And then the waning moon, it's like the flower starts to look like the one from Beauty and the Beast, where it's like dropping leaves and like, oh gosh, now I'm returning to cycle. The important part that's happening during the waning, the getting smaller for the moon, is not necessarily that we're just releasing, but you're dropping new seeds. You're actually creating, as you release stuff, you're also creating new habits. So it's kind of wild that even in the time of releasing and getting smaller and letting things go, internally, we're actually creating tiny little new habits that are going to push through for that next cycle. because you've got to drop the seeds of new behaviors into the ground in order to get them to grow at new moon again and then become a plant and like flourish all the way to their fullest capacity, only to diminish and turn to seed and then start the whole cycle again. So I love the idea of when, as things grow, I hope that some of you found that super helpful, because like in my mind, I see flowers like growing, dropping seeds and then growing again. It's not just scabs, it's also flowers on how I relate the cycles of the moon, to know what kind of magical workings or personal things that I'm trying to work on. That's where I see, that's how I relate what the moon is doing, is with a flower creating seed, going back to the earth, new habit, grow again, all of that. The repetition of getting better, right? Each month, each cycle, as we're working through stuff, no matter what sign it's in, it's like, okay, what's this month? You know, we're in Sagittarius season pretty soon. Sagittarius is going to be about breaking boundaries. It's going to be about, don't fence me in. I need to be free. That's why I love that we have like 3 weeks off for Christmas, because you get to get away from work, do whatever the hell you want, go shopping, sleep in, eat a lot of food. Talk about breaking boundaries. That is like the ultimate thing during Sagittarius season. So, okay. That is what we have for you guys tonight on moon magic. We left a lot of room for questions. We have almost 30 minutes. So we got to do our awkward sign off.
Well, wait, we want to give you your homework first.
Oh yeah, homework. Keeping me on track this one. Okay.
All right. So your homework assignment tonight is to find your moon sign and do some research and reading. And then in your book of shadows, write about
how you connect with the moon. Like maybe you don't connect with the moon at all, and that's totally fine. Do you agree that the moon is feminine energy or not? Do you feel like the moon is really associated with a lot of water? If you have selenite is the stone of the moon. It's supposed to look like a moonbeam. I know, I meant to grab it. You have the ball.
I have it. No, I have it up there too. Okay. With the candles.
If you guys have not seen selenite before, this is selenite, and it's very iridescent and like shiny, and it almost looks like it is kind of see-through, but it flakes off in the selenite moon, see, beautiful, and that's like perfect representation. So selenite is the moon stone, if there ever was one. It's actually named because the goddess Selene is a moon goddess, and so this was her stone. And what they pictured is that she captured moonbeams and turned them into, she harnessed them in a way of a stone that we could use them, that we could carry with us. So when the moon's not around, it's like, boom, I got my moonbeams going right here. So selenite. So think about, I guess the journaling exercise is think about all the ways that you do connect with the moon. If you want to work with it, is it feminine for you? Does it feel hard to work with? Understanding like the cycles that it goes through.
I think the other thing is like when the moon is in a certain sign and the energy,
how do you feel?
And the energy with that sign and the moon in that sign. So, because each sign, of course, has different energies. All of them do.
Oh,
and
good.
So
yes,
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say good time to reference the books.
Okay, so we have some books.
All right. I have 3 books. I probably have about 8 with astrology and stuff, but each of them have a good section over the moon. So this one is Astrology for Real Life. I got this used. I try to get as many books as I can used. And the author is Teresa Reed, but it's a workbook. So she actually has you kind of go through and look at things. It's about a lot of astrology, but the moon part in here, I feel like is really helpful when you're looking at relationship compatibility. This is my book for understanding people's moon signs, because emotionally you need to be compatible. So knowing somebody's moon sign and how you relate emotionally is very helpful. The next one, which I put in the other videos, but I love this lady, Simone Butler. She has several books. This is Moon Rituals. She also has Moon Spells. Either are really good. They're short, very quick little things to do. It's like 10-minute. Oh, that's the beginning of it. It's called 10-minute moon rituals. So this is to try to make ritual work and spell work just easier, just not a ton of like time and commitment and effort and materials. So she does a really good job in this very small little book called 10-minute moon rituals.
And it's
What?
all, each one is related. It's
And it's not the
astrology,
signs,
the
yeah.
sign too.
There's-
So when the moon's in Taurus, when the moon's
Right.
in,
It goes through the zodiac signs with the moons as well. Relationship stuff, things to do. The next book is also by her, but this is an extensive book and it's not used anywhere. So I did buy this one new, and it's called Moon Power. This is a second edition of a book she already wrote. So also by Simone Butler. And this is a lot of knowledge, you guys. This is heavy on things to think about, information, connections, and correspondences. I absolutely love this book. I've not read it all because it's a lot of information. But when the different moons come up that I want to work with, I'll grab this and read it like I did in the video and just go, okay, what can I see tonight that is like a message for me for something? So those are the 3 books that I pull out anytime I want to do anything with the moon. Luckily, 2 of them have the same author. So Simone Butler, she is not a huge presence. She's like very, like secretive, or she doesn't have a big presence on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. She's just like, I wrote these books and this is what I love. So
I like Diane Elquist too. I have her book, some of her books.
A moon magic journal.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are tons of them. Each year I go through different periods where I buy things associated with areas of witchcraft, like astrology or just the moon stuff. And once I find somebody, it's like, then I get all their books. So we got all of her books probably last year, I think, when we first started this, and we're like, we need to offer people more. So we're going to research authors who give more into it, who've been studying it. And since I bought these, I'm like, I really haven't bought any other ones. They've given me so much to do that I didn't need anything new yet. So those are my suggestions for books to work with. I really like the astrology for real life because it walks you through things to do and understand like your personal self and then the people in your circle. So I have a whole list of all the people in my immediate family, like 10 of us. I got their moon signs, I got their risings, like let's look at all the reasons why we might have problems at family dinners. Like, what's the thing going on here? So
what's the dynamic?
Not that I always tell them. I keep it to myself, but it just helps me kind of understand the dynamic of the family that we're born into and our big lessons that we're here to learn and to help each other through problems, okay, I think that was it for me.
All right, so do you have, did I explain the lesson well enough? So research what your
the homework, you mean?
The homework, yeah. So find your moon sign, research and read about it, and write in your book of shadows about what's your connection with the moon. How do you feel about it? Maybe you don't connect with it. That's okay. The moon energy is just another energy that witches can use to help bring about changes in their lives.
It's another thing to use as a correspondence because it's shifting and moving as well. So you can link up with it energetically and use that similar power, that similar desire, whatever sign it's in, that you also want to harness. I go through that in the moon water thing. Like, why do we make the moon water? What is it used for? It's just a way to capture that energy at that specific time and place to use it later for stuff like cleaning your altar or wiping down your phone, or
charging your crystals. I put my crystals under the moon this time.
Yeah. So those are our best suggestions for moon magic, I think.
Thank you for joining us for week 10 of the Beginner Witch series. Tonight we
Talking
talked
about
about
moon magic.
We'll see you next time.